More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. We are getting closer to a World Series matchup. Toronto down 2-0 to the Cleveland Indians. You will have a Game 3 tonight, and the Cubs and Dodgers all tied up at 1 apiece. Now joining us, former big leaguer, that's Frank Catalanotto on the Zach Gelb Show. Frank, appreciate a few minutes, and how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we do appreciate the time. I was watching that game last night. I turned off the football. I said I had to watch the baseball playoffs. Oh, my, what a performance by Clayton Kershaw, especially with Clayton. He's been someone that hasn't always produced on the big stage. Last night was brilliant, though, Frank. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, and 6 Ks. How about Kershaw?
He was awesome, and it's nice to see him, perform well in the playoffs. I know he's gotten a hard time about not being a big game pitcher and a clutch pitcher in the playoffs, and it looks like so far this season he's pitched well in the playoffs, and he's an outstanding pitcher during the regular season and a great guy, so I was very happy for him.
I was at Citi Field last year for NLDS Game 4, and he was brilliant in that game, but still, going into that start last night, people talked about those postseason struggles. Is it safe to say with what he's done coming out of the pen in Game 5 in the NLDS this year and what he did last night that everyone could stop talking about this nonsense of him not performing in the postseason?
Yeah, I think he put all those haters, in their place, and I don't think people are going to be talking about him not performing in the playoffs anymore. I think he put that to bed.
And in the postseason, your stars, they have to be selfless players. You're seeing that right now with the Dodgers. Kershaw, we talked about that expanded role in the NLDS Game 5, but then also Kenley Jansen. He's been unbelievable.
He really has. And this is where, your best players have to be your best players. In the playoffs, they have to step up. And, we watched Jansen pitch a few innings the other night, and he's been awesome. He's been unhittable. So it's really been a fun playoffs this year. I mean, the pitching really has been unbelievable on both sides, not only the National League but also the American League.
When those stars, when they expand their role and they have that selfless attitude, you've been in a lot of clubhouses. Is that attitude, is that contagious amongst the other players?
It is contagious. When you see somebody go above and beyond and maybe go outside of their expected role, everyone wants to do the same thing. Everyone wants to chip in any possible way, and it is contagious throughout the whole club, and I think that's what you're seeing, especially with the Dodgers. You
mentioned that pitching. Chicago's pitching has not been bad so far in the first 2 games of the series, but the surprising thing has been that they haven't been able to get their bats going. What's going on with Chicago right now? Because really, this is the first time all year that they've had to face some adversity.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to me because when I look at those 2 teams, the Cubs are very well balanced all the way through, and you think that lineup is going to be able to score a lot of runs. But listen, this is the playoffs. In the playoffs, it's a little bit different, especially when you're going up against guys like Kershaw, guys that kind of take their game to the next level. And it seems like the runs are going to be few and far between in this series. But I got to say, I still like the Cubs to win this series. I really feel like they're going to break out eventually, and I do think that the Cubs have the better pitching. So again, it's a great series. I believe it's going to continue to be a great series, but I think at the end the Cubs will be standing in the National League.
I agree with you. I picked the Cubs to win this series in 5. It may go a little bit more, but I still like this Cubs team just because of that lineup, and I don't know if the Dodgers can contain them for a whole series. But when you're a hitter and you're in a slump like we're seeing with some of these Cubs hitters of 1 of 21 or 1 of 22, how do you break out of that slump, especially with the pressure that is the postseason?
Well, what you've got to do is you've got to relax. And I'm sure some of these guys have their hitting coach and the manager saying, hey, relax. This stage is not too big for you. Take some deep breaths. You've been doing it all year long. You've been performing. It's going to come. And listen, slumps they come out of nowhere. You could be, 10 for your last 12, and all of a sudden you're 0 for your next 15. So these guys are all good professional hitters, and I think it's just a matter of relaxing and trusting in themselves and believing that they can get it done. And like I said, I think we're gonna start to see that.
Actually, the thing I've been the most impressed with in this postseason has been the job of one Dave Roberts, and it's really been the job he's done all year because they lost Kershaw for a significant amount of time, and that team somehow just kept on winning and winning. And you saw what Dave Roberts was able to do in Game 5. He was managing, and he was not managing scared at all. He was willing to go down with his best players and expanding their role. Just how about the job of Dave Roberts? Because this is his first year. I know he has had postseason experience as a player back in that 2004 ALCS, but what he's doing right now, it's really remarkable.
Well, yeah, he's showing me he's a really good manager. And like you said, the big thing is he's not managing scared. He's not afraid to go on hunches and to make decisions that if they fall through, they're not going to be popular decisions. I thought he did do the right thing the other night, getting Chapman out of the game, and then going ahead and walking the runner to base to load the bases. The only thing I might have done differently in that situation is probably brought the left-hander to face Montero. I do understand that they may have brought in Contreras to hit, but then you're wasting two of their hitters. But I really do like the way he's been managing. I think I'm very impressed with him. I got to play with Dave Roberts in the minor leagues when I was with the Detroit Tigers, and he's just a great guy, a guy that you really root for. So I'm enjoying watching him manage this series, and I really do think he's doing a great job.
Frank Catalanotto with us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. Let's get to the other series, and it's not just this series. It's been all postseason. That has been the brilliance of one Andrew Miller. 7 2/3, 3 hits allowed, and 17 strikeouts on what is still a young postseason. Oh, my, Andrew Miller. What a job so far, Frank.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He really is. And, you think about that trade that the Cubs made with the Yankees, and this is the reason they made that trade. They knew he was a shutdown reliever. He could be a closer, but in the role that he's in right now, it's unbelievable for the Indians, because all they have to do, if they can get to the 7th inning with a lead, it seems like the game's over, because you could bring Miller in for the 2 innings, and then Cody Allen has been lights out as well. This guy's curveball is nasty. So, before the series started, I was going to say, or I did say, that the Blue Jays would win the series, because I thought that their offense was way too good for Cleveland's pitching, and they're proving me wrong. I did not realize how good this bullpen was, and the Blue Jays are going to have a tough time getting back into this thing.
It's all about condensing the game, and you're right. When you see Miller come out in the 7th and 8th inning, you don't have a lot of confidence. If you were facing Andrew Miller in this postseason, what would your approach be at the plate?
Gosh, for me, I think a guy like that, you've got to think about taking him the other way. When you get too big and try to drive the ball and try to hit home runs, you pull off the ball. And he's the type of guy that I watch him pitch, and it seems like he can expose those hitters' weaknesses. If he sees that a lefty's pulling off a little bit, he'll throw that slider away, and then the guy has no chance. But, I think you've got to shorten up and try to just put the bat on the ball, get some runners, and make things happen.
When you're a hitter and you talk about that approach, this guy's only pitched in 5 postseason games this year as a reliever and already has 17 strikeouts. Your mental state when you go up, do you just hope that someone gets a hit and then maybe that starts to open things up? Because these hitters, when they face him, they must be thinking, nobody could solve this guy right now.
Yes, and it's true. They're hoping that, they can get a walk, or they can get a hit by pitch, or somebody can get a ground ball base hit through, a seeing eye hit. Because, yes, your confidence as a hitter, it can't be very high when you see what he's throwing up there. So, sometimes you got to play small ball. Somebody might want to think about, dropping a bunt down or something like that. But yeah, sometimes in situations when you've got a pitcher that seems to be unhittable, you need a little bit of luck, and you need something, the ball to bounce the right way for you.
I saw Jose Bautista's comments the other day, and I didn't love them. He implied that there's circumstances working against the Blue Jays in this series. Is that just frustration, or do you see a problem with the umpiring in this series?
No, I think it's just frustration. Quite honestly, I really didn't understand. I had to read through it a couple of times to really understand what he was implying. And no, I think it's just frustration. I don't think umpires are out to get the Blue Jays or favoring the Indians in any way.
So how do they get back into this series? Because if they don't win tonight, this series is over.
Well, the bats have to wake up, and I do understand they've come across a few guys that that pitched some good games, but it's time for those bats to wake up and for them to score some runs. The Blue Jays all season long, they've been one of the best offenses in the game, and that's what has gotten to them to where they are right now. So I would look for them to be aggressive and try to get on the board early.
When you're in one of those slumps, and we talked about trying to break out of that slump, how much of an importance does a manager and a hitting coach place, or do we just sometimes put an overemphasis on those positions?
No, not necessarily the manager, a little more the hitting coach. For me, it was more the mental side of the game I would go to the hitting coach for. That's what the hitting coach helped me the most with. The mechanics, not so much. I mean, as a hitter in the big leagues, you know your swing. You see video after video of your own swing. You can break it down, and you know how it's supposed to feel. It's more how your hitting coach helps you mentally, helps you with the approach to that certain pitcher, how to approach that certain pitcher, and maybe giving you some confidence by telling you, hey, your swing looks great. You're right there. Instead of picking at the mechanics of the swing, the good hitting coaches just have that certain knack of making the hitter that's in a slump, of making him positive. I had a few of them in my career, and basically that's what's going to happen. You're going to have your hitting coach talk to these guys, talk to the Blue Jays hitters, and just get them in the right frame of mind, both confidently and like I said, getting their plan ready for that particular pitcher.
Frank Catalanotto with us on the Zach Gelb Show, wrapping up with the former big leaguer. So Marcus Stroman, the pitcher tonight, going for Toronto, does have success against the Indians this year. How much does that past experience matter? Because this year in 14 innings versus the Indians, he has 15 Ks.
I think it's huge because it allows him to go into the game confident. He knows he's a young kid, and he knows, hey, I've been able to take care of these hitters. I've been able to, throw my pitches effectively, and that's what you need right now, because you need some guys on that team that have confidence and that know that they can perform and know that they can win. And when you watch Marcus pitch, he doesn't lack that confidence, and so maybe that's just what they need right now: a confident kid coming on the mound, knowing he can get the job done. And I look for him to pitch a good game tonight.
No doubt about that. If they get a good game out of him tonight, you feel confident. But you'd also have to imagine with the struggles that these bats have had, you want to see maybe a run or two on the board early in this game, and maybe that gets contagious and gets the Blue Jays on one of these hitting runs that they're used to.
No doubt about it. It seems like, out of all the teams that I've watched in the big leagues, the Blue Jays are one of the best at feeding off of each other. Once they start going, once they start driving the ball out of the ballpark, getting runners on, it seems like it's contagious, and the next hitter responds. So they haven't been able to get anything going yet, but like you had said, if they can start getting something going early, look for it to snowball.
Frank, before we let you run, I'm a very proud Italian, and I also love Mike Piazza. I see you have a really cool event coming up in New York City on December 8th. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, on December 8th, we're going to have it's a dinner at Carmine's Sports Bar, and Mike Piazza is going to be there. A whole bunch of Italian, former and current Italian baseball players will be there, and it's really going to be a good event. What we're doing is we're raising money not only for the Team Italy for the WBC, but also I know that there's been some devastation over in Italy, and we're raising some money for that as well. So December 8th at Carmine Sports Bar in the city, and it's going to be a really fun event.
Great job out of you. I wish you best of luck on the event. Frank, always fun to talk to you. Appreciate the time, and let's do it again real soon.
All right. Thanks, Zach.